There's a ghost in your iPhone, a flaw that's been hiding inside Apple's code, not for a year or 2 years, but potentially since the very first model was released. For over a decade, it sat dormant, a perfect undiscovered weapon, waiting for someone to find it. Well, someone just did, and they've been using it in extremely sophisticated attacks. This isn't a story about a bug. This is a story about a ghost that has haunted nearly every Apple device ever made, and the digital detectives who just dragged it into the light. On February 11th, 2026, Apple did something they rarely do. They admitted a vulnerability in their software was being actively exploited in the wild. This wasn't just any bug. This was a 0-day. For those who don't know, a 0-day is a security flaw that the bad guys discover before the good guys. It means Apple had exactly 0 days to prepare a defense before attacks began. The vulnerability has a name: CVE 202620700. And it's one of the most fascinating and frightening flaws we've seen in a long time. This vulnerability, this ghost, allowed an attacker to corrupt that bouncer. But here's the crucial part. This isn't an attack that lets someone walk in off the street. To exploit this flaw, an attacker needs to already be inside the building. They had to have found another way in, maybe through a malicious link you clicked in a message or a compromised website. That first step gets them a little bit of access, like being a janitor who's only allowed in the hallways. But this vulnerability, CVE-2026-20700, is the master key. It lets that janitor walk up to the bouncer, flash some corrupted code, and trick Dild into thinking they own the entire building. This is what we call privilege escalation. The attacker goes from a low-level intruder to having the highest level of access possible, essentially becoming the administrator of your device. They can install spyware, steal your messages, turn on your microphone, and do it all without you ever knowing. They become a ghost in your machine. And here's where the story gets really interesting. This flaw wasn't found by some lone hacker in a basement. It was uncovered by one of the most elite teams of digital detectives on the planet, Google's Threat Analysis Group, or TAG. These are the people who hunt the hunters. They track state-sponsored hacking groups and the multi-million-dollar spyware industry. And they found this flaw being used in what Apple called extremely sophisticated attacks. Apple's language here is very deliberate, extremely sophisticated, and targeting specific individuals isn't code for random scams. It's code for high-level espionage. Think journalists working on sensitive stories, human rights activists in repressive countries, politicians, and high-profile executives. These are the kinds of targets for tools like the infamous Pegasus spyware from NSO Group. As Caitlin Condon, a security expert at VulnCheck, pointed out, this has all the hallmarks of a highly targeted surveillance campaign. Someone, likely a government agency or a private firm that sells to them, was using this decade-old flaw to silently and completely compromise the devices of high-value targets. Now you might be thinking, okay, that's scary for them, but what about me? The moment this flaw was used, it became a threat to everyone. Because once a weapon like this is out there, it never goes back in the box. And the scope of this is staggering. Apple's patch on February 11th wasn't just for the new iPhones. The fix, which came in iOS 26.3, was also rolled out for iPad OS, Mac OS Tahoe, Watch OS, TV OS, and even the brand new Vision OS. Basically, if you owned an Apple product made in the last decade, it was vulnerable. Your iPhone, your Mac, your watch, your TV box. All of them had this ghost hiding inside, waiting. Some reports even suggest the fundamental error in the code traces all the way back to the original iPhone OS 1.0. A decade-old zero-day. It's almost unheard of for a flaw that powerful to remain hidden for that long in a company as security-focused as Apple. It's a testament to both the complexity of modern software and the skill of the attackers who finally found and weaponized it. The day after Apple released the patch, the US government got involved. The Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency, CISA, officially added CVE-2026-20700 to its known exploited vulnerabilities catalog. This isn't just a suggestion, it's a mandate. CISA ordered all federal civilian agencies to patch their Apple devices immediately. When the government issues an emergency directive like that, it tells you everything you need to know about the severity of the threat. They don't panic over minor bugs. They panic when they know that powerful adversaries are actively using a flaw against high-value targets, and federal employees are definitely on that list. But wait, there's more to this patch than just one ghost. When you updated your iPhone to 26.3, you weren't just fixing this one critical issue. Apple's security release notes were a laundry list of fixes. In that single update, they patched a total of 38 different vulnerabilities. 38. It's like a security avalanche. While the world was focused on the flashy, actively exploited zero-day, Apple was quietly fixing dozens of other problems. There was a bug that could let an app access your private data. Another that could let someone crash your phone with a malicious Bluetooth device. There were even privacy leaks related to Siri and your location data. It's a stark reminder that your devices are in a constant state of invisible warfare. Every software update isn't just about new emojis. It's a new set of digital armor. And this update was like getting a whole new tank. So, we have a decade-old flaw, discovered by Google's elite hackers, used in targeted spyware attacks, and patched in a massive security update that fixed 37 other problems. But there's a huge piece of the puzzle missing. A controversy, really. Who were the attackers and who were the victims? Apple and Google know, or at least they have a very good idea, but they are not telling us. Apple's statement was brief, simply acknowledging the report from Google Tech and confirming the exploit. They declined to provide any details on the attackers or the number of individuals targeted. This is a classic dilemma in cybersecurity: transparency versus security. On one hand, keeping the details of the attack secret can protect ongoing investigations and prevent other attackers from learning the exact techniques used. It avoids tipping off the spies that you're onto them. And that brings us to the final, fascinating layer of this mystery: the attack chain. Remember how I said this dialed exploit was a second stage attack? The attackers needed to get in first. Well, the breadcrumbs seem to lead back to December 2025. Just a couple of months before this big revelation, Apple patched two other critical vulnerabilities, both also found by Google. These were in WebKit, the engine that powers the Safari browser. While no one has officially confirmed this exact chain, the timeline and the nature of the vulnerabilities line up perfectly. It suggests that this wasn't just a single flaw, but a sophisticated multi-stage weapon system that had been in operation for months, maybe longer, before it was finally dismantled. It's a chess game being played in cyberspace, where one move happens in December and the checkmate is revealed in February. So what does this all mean for you right now? First, and I cannot say this enough, update your devices. This is not one of those updates you can put off. If you have an iPhone, an iPad, a Mac, an Apple Watch, go to your settings, find the software update, and install it. The patch for this ghost has been available since February 11th. By not updating, you're choosing to leave a door wide open that even the US government has ordered sealed shut. This was the first 0-day Apple patched in 2026, but it continues a trend. For the past few years, Apple has had to patch around a dozen actively exploited 0 days annually. This is the new normal. The story of CVE 2026-20700 is more than just a technical breakdown of a bug. It's a perfect snapshot of the state of digital security today. It shows us that even in the most locked down ecosystems, vulnerabilities can hide for years. It proves that there are incredibly sophisticated, well-funded groups actively hunting for these flaws to use in targeted espionage. And it underscores, more than anything, that the single most important thing you can do to protect yourself is to keep your software updated. This was one ghost, one that took over a decade to find. The real question is, how many others are still out there, hiding in the code, just waiting to be found? Thanks for watching. This is a complex and ongoing battle, and staying informed is your best defense. If you found this breakdown helpful, hit that subscribe button. We're constantly tracking these invisible wars, and we'll make sure you're always on the front lines, armed with the knowledge you need to stay safe. And seriously, go update your phone now.